Welcome back to Anderson Acres. We're out here in the garden today. Well, our minuscule garden anyway. There isn't a ton here, but that's because we've only been here 2.5 months, and we didn't have a lot of garden space to work with, but we're correcting that over time. So today I wanted to talk a little bit more about designing your garden, and I wanted to talk specifically about planning for the future, because it's actually really important that you think about what you want to do 5 years from now, 10 years from now, just so you don't end up in a situation where you have to move something stupid, okay? So moving certain things is not fun. We're just going to walk down here and take a look at our potato patch while I talk. But you might be inexperienced, perhaps, when you first start your garden. I know I was when I started my first garden. I didn't have a lot of experience, but I gained skills as I went, and I gained confidence as I gardened. So getting better at it, gaining skills, is one of the great joys of gardening. But one of the problems is sometimes as we get better, we want to change things. And that's normal. Now, the good news there is that a lot of plants really take well to change. So if you have, for example, things like these that you plant every year, no problem moving them. You just stop planting them here and plant something else here and plant these guys somewhere else. These are potatoes, right? So it doesn't really matter. You can just plant them somewhere else next year. All right, if we were to go back to the flower bed, we have some perennials in there, some bulbs. Transplanting bulbs is really easy. You just wait for the plant to go into its dormant stage. Little Bowser's running around with us. Wait for the plant to go into its dormant stage. Don't get Bowser to help you, because you're no help, baby. You are no help at all. But once the bulb is in its dormant stage, you just gently dig it up, move it wherever you'd like. Certain plants take really well to transplanting. Things that don't have deep embedded root systems, they're easy to move. You just wait until they're quiet for the year, and then you move them. No big deal. However, things like trees, shrubs, bushes, these do not really survive transplant well. You're talking about things that have really involved root systems. They're not going to help, okay? Things that have that involved of a root system, they don't move well. So if I wanted to transplant a tree, it actually becomes really problematic. Okay, it's easy to move things like flowers. You just plant them somewhere else next year. Food, plant them somewhere else next year. Some things transplant really well, like raspberry bushes, even though they come back every year. You can just dig them up. It's hard to damage them. They'll come back. It's fine. But certain things like an apple tree or your choke cherry bushes, they have involved root systems that make it very difficult to move them. So those kind of things, you really can't. Once they're established, you're kind of stuck with where they are unless you want to kill them. And generally, we don't want to kill our plants. What's the point of gardening if we're just going to kill our plants the entire time? Okay, so that's one of the reasons why you need to plan things out. At least things that, look at that bees. At least things that take up time, like take up space and have really involved root systems, those kind of things you absolutely need to plan out in advance, okay? So before you fill your space with trees and other really woody plants, you might want to consider making a really good plan, okay? Really involved plan. Sit down, make your long-term plan, your long-term site plan, not just what you want this year or next year, but what you want your yard to look like 10 years from now. That matters. It's actually really important. Okay, so sit down, make a plan. Even if that means you need to have a professional help you do this. There are garden designers and landscapers out there who can draw you the plan. They charge a small fee. They draw you up that plan and off you go, and as long as you can accomplish that plan on your own, you don't have to use their services for anything else. Though you certainly can use their services for other things if, for whatever reason, you can't do something. So you might want to use their services to put in a walkway, but you want to do all your own planting. That's fine. Most landscapers and garden designers will do what you want them to do without doing the things you don't want them to do. Okay? So don't worry about it. It's fine. So you want to experiment and learn. You want the freedom to be able to experiment and change things a little bit. But what you don't want to do, okay, what you seriously do not want to do is have to uproot trees because you put them in the wrong spot. So really sit down and make that plan. So while talking about long-term planning, I'm just going to show you some other images. I'm going to wander around to the front and check on my jalapeno peppers. But I'm going to show you some other images of what we're planning long-term. Just scratchy images, basically, based on our Google Earth map. So our plan, we're going to have a berry trail. So the image that pops up now shows the 2 lines where our berry trail are going to be, basically where the potato plants are. We're going to do a berry trail down there. We're going to have blackberries, raspberries, gooseberries, blueberries, choke cherries. We're going to make an area that's just berries. Berries everywhere. Ooh, my jalapenos are doing well. Someone's going to say, oh, your plants are wilted. They're not. Every time it rains, they pop back up, and it's supposed to rain this afternoon. I don't like overwatering, so I'm not watering them. And yes, I know I have to get my cedars in the ground. I'm going to make my dad do that this weekend. I'm not doing it. I am not doing it myself. Not happening. Because who does that themselves? Not me. It's a bird on the bird feeder. Anyway, so rooting vegetables, we're going to go around this way. So like all of my potatoes and all things like that are going to move over here. I'll just show you because this is going to be a great area for a garden that doesn't need much tending, really. So we're going to put a big root garden over here. So potatoes and carrots and beets and all that nonsense are going to go up here because root vegetables I don't have to do as much tending to. They don't really need me as much. So we're going to do stuff up here. Okay, that's a longer term plan. That's probably going to take a couple of years before we actually do that. So in the meantime, we'll put potatoes wherever we feel like putting them that year. But long term, this is that area that's showing up on the image that's popping up. Okay, this is that area. So the front yellow line at the very edge of the front of our property. That's where we're putting our root vegetables just because we can. And no, we're not too worried about animals eating them because we don't care that much, to be honest. As long as someone eats them, we don't care. So then we're going to do a corn patch. And the corn patch is going to be in the back corner of the property because there's actually quite a lot of empty space back there. And we're going to run our horse fencing near it. So the horse will be near the corn pasture, not in the corn pasture. Because if the horse is in the corn pasture, I guarantee you we won't have any corn. So definitely not putting the horse with the corn. There's going to be a fence separating the horse from the corn. Cat's going crazy. We're not going to talk about that. Cat's crazy. Anyway, the final thing we're going to do, and that's why I'm walking this way, is we're actually going to put an orchard in. Okay, so we're actually going to walk around this corner here. Go over here, and here in this kind of clearing area, we're going to clear it a little bit better because there's some baby poplars in this area, and we're going to clear it, and there's actually a wood pile that needs to be kind of burned, so we're dragging that to the fire pit slowly. But we're actually going to put an orchard over in this kind of area because it's sunny but not crazy sunny, which is good for the types of trees we're going to be planting. So we live on the Canadian prairies, which means not everything will grow here, so we can't have like oranges and mangoes and stuff, but we can do like apple, plum, apricots, and cherry. Certain varieties grow really well here, so that's what's going to go here in that kind of open area. We're going to kind of go back into the trees a little bit with it, and we're going to have a nice little orchard going on in here. And we also have our compost pile in here because trees like compost. So that's basically what we're going to be doing over here. So we have a long-term plan that's going to take us a few years to execute. But once we actually have this all in, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be excellent. We're going to have all the stuff we want on our property here. Okay, it's good. There's also a cat climbing a tree. Yeah, which is not part of the plan, but whatever. So that's basically what we're going to do. And it's going to be fantastic, and it's going to be fun, and we're going to have a great time doing it. So that is our long-term plan. Sit down and come up with your own, because a long-term plan doesn't mean you have to do it all right now. It means that eventually you'll get to it. So start with what's most important to you, but don't forget about those big things that you want to put in down the line. You don't want to run out of room for them or end up having to move something big that you shouldn't have had to move. That's about it for us here at Anderson Acres. We'll see you tomorrow.